kids who are getting a little bored. You can click it to double time that puppy if you want to, for the kid who's going to someday sit concert mistress in the all galaxy orchestra, to keep that kid challenged. But use those template changer softwares, because if we don't do that, we're going to lose some kids one way or the other, out of boredom or out of frustration. Don't say, no, 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 Frank, stop getting frustrated. You're practicing it too fast. Set that thing at 70%. That's a good tempo. Next month, we're going to work that up to 100%. Getting to know them as people. Wow, is that much harder now? I think we can all agree. One of the biggest challenges of hybrid and of virtual is that we don't get to know them as people as well. That we can't show them the interest we show in them as human beings. We can't say, hey, Sam, how'd your dad's surgery do? Hey, I hear you like to cook. Tell me what something you cooked last night. It's harder for us to do those things. So maybe we need to do them in a chat. Maybe we need to do that as an email thing. Maybe take a break from the plan that you have for what they're going to learn, and just write a little thing. Here's a test. You have a very important test. It's due tomorrow morning. That test is, I need you to tell me something about you that I would never know. Something that you love to do that doesn't have to do with music. Tell me your favorite piece. And then you share with them those things for you. Kids want that as part of that social emotional environment that we can't provide, but we can provide it. We just have to do it differently. Make sure they feel noticed. Very hard to do on a Zoom screen. We all can agree to that. Having the principal zoom in or walk into the cafeteria if that's where you're rehearsing because it has enough room for you, and wave to the kids. That principal coming in means the world. Having an assistant principal or that really popular math teacher come in and say, man, you guys sound great. Little do they know you're spread apart, 2 miles between each child, and you're playing with 1/4 of the orchestra. That's okay. That person's complimenting them, noticing them. Have a section of the week and send it to the local newspaper. You can still do that. That newspaper is still coming out. Each of us have little newspapers. My little tiny community I live in this little tiny town. I think they have 3 little newspapers. They're dying for stuff to put in there. Put the section of the week in. Heck, you go in score order. They'll never know you're doing it. Especially when virtual. Practice is a problem. Practice when they're hybrid, when they're virtual, is seemingly never ending for a child, because so much of their time is being done at home practicing, because we have so little time. I'm sure for some of you, your rehearsal time has been cut to 30 minutes or maybe less. Some of you are only getting to rehearse once a week. Some of you aren't able to rehearse. Because of that, it basically is you go home and practice your violin 400 hours a day. That's what kids get as a message, because it's them, their room, and their violin. Well, we need to make sure it's not never ending. So I'm going to give you some suggestions that I know you all have known and remember. I just want to mention it real quickly and just to kind of remind us all. Give kids a clear agenda of what to practice and give them the time that they're supposed to practice it. Now you're saying, but every child's different. It'll take Jimmy 4 minutes to learn that line. It'll take Susie 1 minute to learn that line. I don't care. Give them a time. You don't need to do it for every kid. You can say, okay, you're going to practice line 1 for 4 minutes. You're going to practice this for 2 minutes. Give them lots of small amounts. Saying learn this page is daunting to a child. Say, I only want you to practice for 3 minutes on each line. 5 minutes. Just do that for 5 minutes. Give little bits time to do it so they have a schedule. From your first 5 minutes, you're going to rehearse this. Your second minutes, you're going to practice this, etc. So tiny amounts. They're much more palatable. It's the old adage, and to the vegetarians, I apologize. How do you eat a giant elephant? And we all know the answer to that joke is 1 bite at a time. And I think we need to do that when it comes to practicing. Make sure their environment is conducive, that they have a chair that they can sit in with good posture, that doesn't have arms, obviously, that they have a music stand, that they're not using their bed as the music stand, hunched over trying to play their viola looking down, that there's light to do this. And maybe we need to convince family members that they need to have an environment that's suitable. All too often, we know they're not practicing. They're practicing sitting on the bed, looking at the music on the bed, twisting their entire body, trying to play the viola. Like that's ever going to happen? It's not. Having a mirror, having a metronome, having a pencil, give them those clocked amounts to practice with that. So they have to have something to have a clock so they can time that. And then teach them how to practice. Give them a little tutorial on here are some ways that we can practice. We can start it slow, speeding it up with a metronome. We can just practice the rhythm. We can just practice the pitches. Whatever it is, give them techniques. You all know how to practice, or you won't be the musicians you are. We need to teach those kids how to do it, maybe now more than ever. When virtual or even can be done face-to-face and virtual at the same time is awesome. If you're doing that hybrid of, half your kids are at home on virtual, half of them are in front of you. Asking tons of questions that can be answered with a nod or a thumbs up or thumbs down. I think that's wonderful technique, especially if we are virtual, especially if we've got half and half, because a kid in front of you can still go like this. A kid on the screen can go like this. So ask tons of yes and no questions. Now, does that mean we have to change our teaching style a little bit? Yeah, maybe. We could do some multiple choice things. Everybody, okay, here are the answers. 1, 2, or 3. Which is it? Oh, it's this one. Good. Give them lots of finite, if you can, binary questions, and keep questioning them over and over again, because it keeps them engaged, and it's a great way to link those who are learning from home with those who are learning face-to-face in front of you. One person plays, and everybody else has to chat one positive thing. So Susie's going to play 2 minutes, and everybody has to, in the chat, say something positive about that performance. Those are other ways to keep them engaged, whether they're online, whether they're in front of you, or both at the same time. I want to quick do this one. Remember attention span, especially with screen fatigue being rampant. I'm going to say it again because I have to, or I'll probably have a seizure right now. Remember attention span, especially because of how Zoom fatigue and screen fatigue is attacking students and adults viciously. And I'm going to give you 2 things to remember. Remember that it takes that if we can catch someone's attention, if we can grab someone's attention, good morning, that'll do it. A joke, a laugh, whatever it is. Play something beautiful so their heartstrings are just savoring that. Anything like that will, if we can capture their attention, will buy us 10 minutes of attention span. It's a proven fact. And time again, it's come to bear. When you get bored, look at your watch. It'll be 10 minutes into anything. Hopefully not this hour that we're together. But it's 10 minutes in. So I beg you, you need to hook them at the end of 10 minutes. People are like parking meters, it turns out. That you put in the quarter, you get 10 minutes. You put in another quarter, well, in our case, we've got to grab them, grab their attention, we get 10 minutes. And then we have to do that every 10 minutes. Some of you, so kindly, Brian mentioned the books that I've written, Teaching Music with Passion, etc. You'll notice that the chapters are by and large very small. It's because most people will read a small chapter. I give you one book that's one chapter. People are like, yeah, I don't think I want that book. Same thing and that's because of this 10-minute rule. The other thing comes to us from a great educator, Imogene Hilliard. Imogene is long gone, but she gave us a great bit of wisdom that says that remember that a child's chronological age in years is equal to their attention span in minutes. Now, I often think she meant seconds, but be that as it may. You've got 8th graders, you've got 13 minutes of attention span. So we need to do something to push those 13 minutes around in that 30 minutes or 40-minute class. So we can't just drive them for 13 minutes because at the end of that 13 minutes, they're done. So we intersperse it, do 2 minutes of intense concentration, and then again, 3 minutes of intense concentration, then some review, 2 more minutes, etc., and intersperse those along. Assessment. We've got to assess kids. Yes, we do, positively. But one of the things is we've got to do it while we're engaging kids. Yes, having them send us a video, that's a great way to engage kids. But I want you to remember a couple things that you all know, and I just want to remind you that now I think is a better time to do it than maybe ever. And one is metacognition. We all know the joking name of it is thinking about thinking. Basically, have them do a video teaching you how to do something. Send me a 2-minute video of how to hold your left wrist. And by them teaching it to you, their understanding goes to 100% retention. So if I say, Brian, how many sharps are there in D? Now the bad teacher in me wants to say, Brian, you rock, let's go celebrate. But the good teacher would say, oh, Brian, how did nothing else? Nope, that's it. Well, I know I have a problem. But if I get Brian to say, Brian, why did you get 2? How did you get 2? He said, oh, well, easy. You told us that rule. You go to the sharp on the right. You go, okay, good. You got it. That's metacognition. What a great environment Zoom has created for us, for them to write, chat, talk, video, whatever it is, but we need to constantly have them teach us stuff. And the other is experiential learning, which we all know jokingly is called learning by doing. And that's where Brian says, I say to Brian, how many sharps are there? He says 2. I say, how do you get that? He tells me the right answer. And I said, great, Brian, do me a favor. Teach Susie that. Now, I might send him to a breakout room. I might just have it do it on the screen. I might have him videotape it, whatever it is. Teaching someone else to do something, what a great opportunity we have, because it'll keep them on task, it'll give us 100% retention and allow us to assess. I know as we come to a close here that it seems like Groundhog Day. It really does. Every day seems so much more the same, and the challenges are seemingly ever present. I ask you to do one thing different every day. Try something new every day. Today, I'm sure from the presenters that are going to be here, hopefully everyone will gather one little thing or 2 little things you might be able to try. Just do something different for yourself every day and for your kids every day. Because as much as for us as adults and professionals, it's Groundhog Day. The movie, you remember that movie? It's Groundhog Day for our kids too. And I think us as adults can maybe handle it a little easier than kids can. Their world's been turned upside down just like ours. And we have to remember that. So do something different every day. Find positives in this negative. Find something that you're going to say, you know what? I can't wait for this darn pandemic to be over, but I'm going to keep doing X because I know that it'll make me a better teacher and my students better learners. Be careful with the amount of negative. It is so much easier for us to be negative in a virtual environment. And I don't mean hollering at a kid or anything. I mean being critical all the time. Fix this, fix this, fix this, fix this, because we have so little time on task. Make sure we have as many positives as we have constructive criticism, because it's really easy with the wall that's in front of us called a video screen to have us become easy with the wall that's in front of us called a video screen. Remember, we want that 78% to go away. I want kids to think they're really good at it. Well, if I balance my constructive criticism with a lot of positive, I'm going to do that. Like always, my friends, like always, they must like us. They have to have fun, and they have to know that we care about them. Now, when I say like us, I don't mean they have to be, say, oh, that's my favorite teacher. I don't care about that. They have to find us approachable. They have to think that we're on their side. They have to think that we care about them as people as much as music learners, like it has always been. They need to trust us, that our advice is there for them, that our advice works, and that they're sounding better and they're progressing. They need to respect us. By that I mean they need to know that we're prepared for every session. They need to know that it's safe to try and to fail. We need to lessen their worry and fear, maybe now more than ever, because that's part of our job. I did want to mention, Brian so kindly said, he mentioned the blog. I just have to tell you quick about this. When I took the reins at KHS America Academic Alliance as Director of Education, the reins at KHS America Academic Alliance, I don't have this gram, I don't have a Facebook page, I don't have a website, I don't do anything electronic. I hate it. And they said, well, we really want a blog. And I said, I don't really care. I'm not doing a blog. And we wrestled with this for a while. And a couple of years into my time with them, I got an email that said, please read the attached. And it had a whole bunch of emails from teachers asking why I wasn't doing a blog. And some of them were very touching and very kind. And they said, the little tidbits that are in his books, the little tidbits we gather at state conferences we go to hear, we really want those. And I thought, I'm not going to do this. And I felt so guilty after reading those emails. I said, okay, I'll try it for 6 months. So I did. That was 4 years ago, and I'm addicted to them now. I love them. They come out every Wednesday. They're absolutely free of charge. There's nothing marketing. It's not a stunt to sell stuff. I hate it when things do that. I'm not there to sell anything. No product is ever mentioned. No, nothing is ever mentioned. You're not going to get a cold call like, hey, you need to buy these 3 cellos. None of that ever happens. They're all very short because, as I told you, I like to have things that are quick. Somebody once said to me, the reason they like the the blog is because they can read it with one cup of coffee. And they're all very short. They come out on Wednesday, hopefully to inspire us to keep going through the week. Sometimes the blog is a technique. Sometimes it's a rehearsal strategy. Sometimes it's just words of inspiration or motivation for us or for our students. As I said, it's just once a week. It doesn't bombard people through this, and it's just the school year. And so if you go to any search engine and you type Boonshaft's blog, sign up. It'll take you to a page. You just put your email in, and that's it. And it's never used for anything else. I hope you check it out. It's great fun. I love it, and I hope you'll find that interesting. I'll leave you, before we have a little time for questions that I wanted to make sure. I'll leave you with one last suggestion. In the heat of us battling what we're doing to make sure our students learn what they need to learn, and as I said, they're going to, because you're wonderful teachers. In the heat of the challenges that we have, in the myriad of techniques and strategies that we're all being bombarded with, I want us to remember one thing, and I leave it to the last because it is the most important one. I remind you all that somebody helped us fall in love with music. It's the bottom line. Somebody, maybe a bunch of buddies, maybe a bunch of teachers, but someone along the lines, for everyone on this call, everyone in your association, got us to fall in love with music. And I beg you to remember that that might be the most important thing on earth. So I ask you, get your students to fall in love with music. Now, before you say to me, what a stupid thing, I can't believe this moron said that. It's not me saying it. It's Igor Stravinsky. Igor Stravinsky said these words, and I remember them every day, and I hope you do too. He said, music appreciation in general has the problem of teaching students to have too much respect for music, when it should teach them to love it instead. Aren't they beautiful words? Think about it. Let's take opera. Opera is a really good example. You know, opera, where someone gets stabbed in the back and instead of bleeding, they sing. How many of us were taught to respect opera before we were taught to love it? And maybe the art of opera and the opera houses around the world would be better served if we let kids roll around on the floor and laugh at it and make fun of it or whatever else, and finally, eventually learn to love it, and then learn enough to respect it. And they were the words Stravinsky left us with. And I think maybe now more than ever, we need to all remember. So I thank you for being here. I thank Brian for all of his efforts to set this up, and for the association supporting all of your time and efforts in your teaching this year especially. But I want to thank you for taking the time, listening to me rant, and bearing with me as I go through some things for us all to think about. And I'll leave you with these words, and they're the words of the greatest philosopher of any generation. It's not Schopenhauer or Plato or Socrates. It's Ziggy. You know, the little cartoon critter? I'm not even sure what he is, but I know he was very special when he said, you can spend your life complaining that roses have thorns, or you can spend your life rejoicing in the fact that thorns have roses. I wish you all a wonderful year. I wish you great health and success. And I hope each of you remember how important you are in the lives of every student that you teach.